Hello, friends, and welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Nintendo...
Bingo.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Nintendo Gems podcast, the Nintendo podcast where we talk about games both new and old. I am player one of today's podcast. Wow, that's a game. That's true gamer.
Epic gamer reference. Can't believe we have not done that yet. Actually,
that was why I did it, and at the same time, I hated myself.
But also, proud of us that we haven't done that yet.
Yeah,
but it was bound to happen sometime.
Oh, okay. I'm player one, Braden,
and I'm Luigi Connor.
Yeah, that's how it usually goes, though. I am Big Brother, and you can have the Mad Catz controller.
Thanks.
You got
Appreciate it.
We got a good show for you today.
Yeah, we got some Nintendo games to talk about.
That's right,
which is pretty surprising.
Yeah, that's off-brand for us.
I know. I like just think of shaking things up a little bit on the podcast.
Nintendo's for babies.
Exactly, they're for little brothers. Player twos in the world.
Yeah, so you want to handle this one?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
WarioWare, get it together. Sucks.
So he did just say that. And before we started the podcast, he kind of started alluding to the fact that he thinks today's game sucks. Today's game is WarioWare Get It Together, the newest addition to the WarioWare microgame series, which, we'll elaborate on. But yeah, we did take a few minutes to play it together before we started recording as well.
Get it together.
Nice. We're funny today.
Yeah, we're on top of it, for
Yeah.
certain. We have not been recording for 3 hours prior already.
Yeah.
Can't tell.
Nope. But I was the one to pick this game up, and I've played it more than you have. And in fact, you haven't played it before today.
That is true. And that's mostly due to No More Heroes 3 taking up most of my free time and trying to get through it.
Did they come out on the same day? If not very close together.
Very close. WarioWare was September 17th, right?
Yeah.
No More Heroes was late August, if not early September.
Oh, WarioWare was like September 7th, I want to say.
Okay.
It was pretty early in the month. But...
Yeah, I mean, when WarioWare dropped, I was still getting through No More Heroes, certainly. Yeah. Which is a shame because I love the WarioWare series.
Yeah.
We've talked about Mega Micro games already on the show.
That's right. That's the original Game Boy Advance WarioWare game.
Right.
That started it all. So go check out that episode if you're unfamiliar with the series or just, haven't talked about that game in a while. We have a good time with that game.
And it's just brilliant. I think that game is solid gold from like a game design perspective, just like impenetrable. Like game design, like do you remember like talking about it? Like game design just like distilled to like its core, like 4 directions and a button. You accomplish a single objective in 5 seconds. These micro games, a series of like hundreds of micro games that you just like blow through.
Yeah, let me pause you there because it's interesting that it's not literally a trademarked term, but micro games. They don't call them mini games as, we generically call like interruptions to the core gameplay of usual games. Right.
Miniature games within a game. You call them mini games, but these are...
And even in Mario Party though, like to continue it, like I would call those the mini games,
Right.
But WarioWare calls them micro games,
right? Which
does seem very appropriate.
Sure, because I mean that is because as we've detailed in our WarioWare episode before, if you could attribute your average mini game within a video game to like some kind of metric size, the micro game is 1 metric unit smaller. Yeah. The millimeter to your meter. That's right, as it were.
Sure.
The inch to your foot.
Right.
The micro game in WarioWare's case being truly like timed experiences, 5-second long experiences. You have to complete a single succinct objective in 5 seconds, and then immediately after that you're on to the next one.
That's right.
It just kind of railroads you through these consecutive micro games, blowing through these like crazy objectives, just one after another pretty rapidly. It's kind of the trademark WarioWare experience.
And I think it's fair to detail, so we owned the Game Boy Advance game, the original. We owned the DS sequel, Touched, Smooth Moves for the Wii. There was a GameCube game that we missed. But there have been
we also missed Twisted on the Game Boy Advance. Remember that?
Oh, wow. You're so right. But that goes to my point, though, that there are a couple entries that we've missed even since the time of Smooth Moves for the Wii.
Certainly.
At least personally, I don't know about you, if you've managed to get a hold of... I know there was WarioWare Gold, which is more of like a greatest hits for a lot of games.
There was WarioWare DIY.
Yeah.
Which was even more interesting than just a sequel. It was one where you could make your own micro games. And you could like share them via like friend codes and like download them from like the DSiWare shop.
Sure.
It was pretty cool for the time and still is. So there was that, and then there was also Game & Wario on the Wii U that we missed.
Interesting. Was that a digital only title?
No, it was physical. It was the Wii U's WarioWare game that it got that most people didn't realize and kind of got forgotten.
Yeah, I'll need to add that to the wish list.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we should definitely pick it up. I feel it's probably pretty hard to find. I feel like I don't even see it like at GameStop or anywhere these days.
Right.
But that's the game that like Gamer originally came from. Do you know what I'm talking about? All the games in Game & Wario use the Wii U gamepad. Uh-huh. And so that was something you had to like play. It was like you were playing. It was 9-Volt playing a game, like a Game Boy, in his bed, and he couldn't be playing it after his bedtime. Oh. So you had to play this game on the Wii U gamepad and complete the objectives while looking on the TV screen to make sure your mom was not checking in on you, catching you playing a game in bed.
That's fun.
Great stuff. But that was like the most notable one, and that's like why 5-Volt is
a new character.
Yeah, like a staying character, and it's a stage in Smash. That was like mostly the notable one. The rest were just kind of like fine.
Interesting. And wow, yeah. I mean, there have been a couple WarioWare stages for Smash.
Right.
There's one based on the original Game Boy Advance one where like, you
fly through the micro games.
Right. Yeah. There's a standard stage, and then the door opens, and you're in a micro game, and you actually have to meet that condition, or you get a nerf of some sort,
right,
etc. I guess I hadn't quite realized that Smash 4 level was that in Smash 4?
Right.
Yeah, was from WarioWare. Anyway, moving on. Clearly, we have missed a couple entries, but we have a very strong base understanding of where the series came from, and consider ourselves both fans of the WarioWare series.
And Wario in general. I love Wario is like one of my favorite Mario characters.
Yeah.
For certain.
And so, this was one of those kind of like stealth drops. Not really, but like they just announced it back this summer, I believe. And
pretty quick turnaround.
That's right. Yeah, and they were like, "Hey, it's going to be coming out in just a couple months." Long story short, I have to say I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I am still turning it on every day or so just to chip away at some of the challenges, complete some of the mini games. But it follows a very strong WarioWare formula where you start the game up and Wario has this company where he makes these micro games and he sells them to the public, and then something goes wrong within the company and he ends up like having to play through them along with his friends. This game takes on a pretty fantastic framework in my opinion. So the Game Boy Advance one, it obviously just kind of like it used the D-pad and the buttons of the Game Boy Advance to its advantage for the micro games, and then WarioWare Touched for the DS. It started to it
exclusively incorporated touchscreen. It was all touchscreen,
right? And so lots of touching, dragging, selecting, and it used the microphone a little bit as well. Mm-hmm. And so you'd either have to blow or yell, for some of the micro games. Smooth Moves for the Wii takes it up another notch, you know what I mean? It's all using the Wii remote and the nunchuck. And so obviously imagine the possibilities there, both pointing-wise and motion detection. Lots of different microgame opportunities. And so,
needless to say, all WarioWare games up to this point have some sort of gimmick.
Yes.
Or that's something I've admired about the WarioWare series since its inception, is how it uses each platform to its fullest extent. And like no WarioWare game has come out that's like not been purposeful and been like, it's clearly been very inspired. Like WarioWare Inc. for the Game Boy Advance came out and it was revolutionary, and like is, again, a distillation of like game design. You just 4 directions and a button. But the DS one was like, how can we use this touchscreen concept in as many ways? Just quantitatively, like hundreds of ways. And same for the Wii version, Smooth Moves. Like, how can we use these motion controls in as many innovative ways as we possibly can? Like, as many micro games as we can stuff in this thing. Just like every possible situation you can think of. The Smooth Moves one was interesting because you could it had like all the different poses too. It was like, pretend that the Wii Remote is a snout and put it on your nose. Pretend that the Wii Remote is a steering wheel. And you had to like, to get the intended experience, you had to like wield the Wii Remote in specific ways. Obviously, as we have alluded to, even Game & Wario, the forgotten sequel, used the gamepad in innovative ways. Like, WarioWare has always been a series about innovation and capitalizing on like whatever hardware.
Yeah, pushing the limits of the console that it's on.
Exactly. And like just utilizing it, wielding the new hardware in the ways that like obviously Nintendo was going for, but in like these extremely short form executions.
It's fascinating the different dimensions these micro games will take on, because a lot of them will reference Nintendo games, and some of them are, yes, like directional pad A-B games. Some of them are like meta knowledge based, though. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden it'll throw you, this is a poor example, but just like a 2+2 math equation. You know what I mean? And then it switches your brain to like Big Brain Academy style thinking.
And that's something that is also like intertwined with each of the subsequent entries, though, is that, yes, in the original WarioWare Mega Micro games, it was every micro game was played with the directional pad and a single button, but each of the games were categorized by genre, insofar as like the first set of micro games you play at Wario's is introduction. Jimmy T's set of micro games are sports themed.
Right.
Orbulon's are sci-fi. Like in the original, they're kind of by genre of like aesthetic and situation.
Yeah.
And 9 Volts obviously are classic Nintendo games, so you're playing a lot of like Metroid and Mario and Zelda and stuff. You're controlling classic Nintendo games.
Right.
And that kind of categorization, theming sort of execution carried over into even the Touched, where the games were categorized by how you manipulate the screen. One character, I forget which character specifically were each, but I remember Dr. Krieger's games where you spin something on the screen.
Ah, right.
One character is where you drag certain things across the screen. One was you swipe certain things. And so it was more like a matter of being categorized by like how you touch the screen.
Play style?
Yeah, exactly. And same for Smooth Moves, was they were categorized by what pose you had to strike with the Wii Remote. Like if you had to use like the elephant trunk thing, or like hold it like a steering wheel.
Yep.
And so each entry both uses its medium, its hardware, its gimmick, but also it doesn't feel like a hodgepodge. Like it's not just like, let's use every idea that the Wii Remote can do and do everything all at once. It categorizes them and it makes them into like a cohesive, progressive gameplay experience, because it introduces each of these new mechanics and new scenarios progressively in each of these WarioWare games, and then it starts to mix them up and remix them and speed them up, and starts to mix each of these control styles and play styles together progressively as the game gets more complicated, which is something I find so beautiful. Like, that's such great game design.
Well said. Yes.
Sure. But this one's different.
Yes. So, okay.
Let's get it together.
Yes. In our usual Nintendo's fashion, we've taken
the long road, the detour around to get to the point.
To get to our actual game of study.
Yes.
Which is WarioWare Get It Together. It is a Switch WarioWare game, which means that it's going to be pushing the Switch's features to the extreme, right? And with that hope in mind, I can't say that it uses the Switch in any crazy revolutionary ways. And I think one hindrance is that it's able to be played like both on a TV and in handheld, so they couldn't rely on like the touch screen necessarily as like a reliable gimmick or anything. But they do an interesting thing. They incorporate the entire cast of WarioWare characters that we've seen before throughout all the games and give each of them a 2D movement pattern. And the only way I really feel like I can describe it is to kind of just explain a couple characters, unless you think you can handle this.
I mean, certainly help me out in explaining it. Help me out because it's going to be hard for me to start explaining this without explaining why I don't like it.
Uh-huh.
But it turns the whole thing into like a side-scroller. Like side-scrolling platforming controls. Instead of whatever is on screen being whatever is on screen, whether that is like exit and you're navigating Link to an exit. I don't know, jump. Wario is on screen. You have to jump and dodge a car.
Uh-huh.
The gimmick of this game is you control a fixed character throughout every micro game. Mm-hmm. You play as Wario. You can play as Wario for every micro game in the game, and you have to navigate Wario, a character who plays a certain way, through all these different scenarios. It's interesting. I think conceptually the whole thing is very interesting and cool and unique, and I like the idea because, like you said, there's this entire cast of WarioWare characters. There's like a couple dozen or so that you can play as in this game, and that means that every micro game, every 200 plus micro game in this entire game has to be able to be completed by every character. And every character plays completely differently. Right.
Some of them have very limiting features that make it a stretch of the mind to like, how could they possibly work in this micro game? Mm-hmm. But they do, one way or another.
Right. Every character has their own control scheme. Like I said, some of them purely being like controlling like a side-scrolling platforming game character. You move side to side and you can jump. And that's as basic as it gets. Compared to one character is basically just a glorified cursor that you navigate around the screen and can manipulate completely freely. They do a good job, I've found, of diversifying the play styles. Like you said, you can, articulate how different characters play and how, like, what those strengths are, because you've played more than me, obviously.
Right. Again, I am going to resort to just kind of describing a couple different characters who play fairly differently. Starting with Wario, he can move freely about the screen, and you are controlling him, and when you press A, he will dash to whatever direction he is facing. But it is side to side. He will not dash up or down, just to his left or right, and he can break a block with it. He can affect an enemy with it. He can push something with it. He can... there's a variety of conditions that will need to be met throughout the microgames, and that's how you do it with Wario. Then there's 18-Volt, who is entirely stationary on the ground. He cannot move, but he can shoot bullets very fast in a whatever direction you point him at. And also, he can move by attaching himself to these rings that become obvious throughout the microgames. But in stark contrast to Wario, he can't move by himself. And then there are characters that can only move on the ground and jump and don't have any attack. So all of these different characters are compatible with every single microgame to some degree. So that makes part of the challenge adapting not only to the shifting microgames, which is the typical WarioWare staple that just like every 5 seconds you're playing a different game, but you're also playing it with a different character who maybe can only shoot in one direction, or can't shoot at all, or whose control scheme is just entirely reversed. You know what I mean? And so you have to like react on the fly to not only the conditions of the game, but the conditions of the character. And so you seem to be disappointed by this, whereas I think it is like an interesting take on the microgame theme, and just, it is a satisfying gimmick for a WarioWare game to me.
Again, I think it's conceptually interesting and intriguing. It feels like something that I would come up with as like a kid. Mm-hmm. Is like every character's in it and they play completely differently, and you can make all the microgames playable with every character.
Yeah.
And you can pick your favorite one. And I like 9-Volt because he's cool. This is such a tangent, but I'm reminded of this Sega Genesis game I've been replaying recently called Gain Ground, which is the same thing. It's not the same thing. By the same thing, I mean it has one similar thing in that it's an arcade game that you progress forward, but there's a few dozen characters that you collect progressively throughout the game, but they can die in each level. They can be shot. It's like a top-down, like gauntlet style arcade game, and you can lose them. But every character plays completely differently to the point that like some characters are blatantly overpowered, some characters are blatantly outmatched by others, and some characters are blatantly horrible or really good for particular levels.
Sure.
And in that regard, it's hard to say that it doesn't feel intentionally designed that way, but it doesn't mean that it's well designed.
Sure.
You know, it may or may not have been like thought of during development or like acknowledged that there's like, this character is not going to be fun to play, especially in this particular level or micro game. But it still feels like that. I don't think that's a good thing still.
Well, and to that point, like entirely actually, you use 9-Volt as your example,
right?
Who happens to be the poorest example in WarioWare Get It Together,
yes,
which you're aware of. That's not lost on you.
Nope.
But he is the worst character. 9-Volt, at a very quick speed, bounces back and forth from left to right at the bottom of the screen, hitting whatever obstacle he runs into, and then he'll start bouncing back the other way, and he shoots his yo-yo up and down, and that's his only attack. You have no control of his speed or his bouncing back and forth. This makes most microgames really difficult with him. And so, exactly to your point, it's very frustrating when you get a 9-Volt on some kind of microgame that it's on the wrong axis.
Right, exactly.
And like I kind of mentioned, they incorporate these rings for the more stationary characters that allow them to move about the stage in a microgame. And 9-Volt he's moving so fast, you have to get this yo-yo exactly right on these rings to try and move anywhere. It's very frustrating.
I think, and the addition of the rings at all,
implies something.
Implies that something is not right.
Yeah.
The fact that if you are playing certain characters, they have to add certain amenities to every single microgame to compensate for a particular character says something about like, because again, I played it for the first time today. I watched a few videos of the gameplay and stuff just to like know what's going on. And obviously I saw the reveal at E3 and such. So I got it. I understand what's going on. But it's still like I feel like it betrays the ethos of WarioWare game design. Yeah. Where I told this anecdote like back in our WarioWare episode. Like I remember our uncle and aunt picked up WarioWare, the Game Boy Advance one, and got right into it. Yeah. And like touched is so simple because like this goes with like the microgame categorization too. Like it starts with like you just tap things and then you're swiping things, then you're spinning things, and these are all distinctly categorized, and then it starts to mix them up. It's a natural like progression. And that may be the case here. Again, I dropped in like in your like end game state, but it was a lot to digest. Yes. I felt overwhelmed, and the screen felt very cluttered, where there was this micro game happening that I had like and a lot of information to process. Yeah. But also I had to manipulate this character that moves and operates in a very distinct way. And also, yeah, some characters have these rings in the micro games just so that character can be able to solve the micro game. Right. It felt cluttered and messy to me, and to me that betrays like the design ethos of WarioWare and what makes it feel so organic and natural and such a distilled gaming experience in the first place. And let alone even minus like the more limited movement characters and the rings and such, the compensation there, like the objectives of the mini games felt redundant because you're always controlling a character. Yeah. You're always either like moving something or collecting something. Yeah. you know? And because every character has to be able to complete every micro game, some characters you can move freely, some are stationary, like you said, you have to shoot something, like shoot bullets at something. Truly, it felt like every micro game you had to like move something or collect something, or you had to like move your character to an exit. But again, some characters are stationary, so you have to like have certain amenities in the micro games for the stationary characters.
Yeah, to reach this exit. Yeah,
it was just like there was such a steep learning curve all of a sudden to WarioWare, which is the exact opposite of what I think WarioWare should be. WarioWare is pick up and play to a T in my mind. And again, maybe if I started from the beginning and kind of built up my understanding of the characters and the micro games, maybe it would feel a little better.
100%, because like you unlock these characters one by one as you go through the story, and so you learn each and every one of their quirks as you are moving through the story, and by the end you know them all. And so like I can't imagine having jumped in at the deep end like you.
But this is also antithetical to where I feel like the marketing has failed itself, because this is WarioWare Get It Together. The pun being like this is one of the few multiplayer WarioWare games. This is like one of the few party WarioWare games. And if I like a seasoned hardcore gamer that just came off of playing No More Heroes 3 on the hard difficulty, am like trying to drop in and being overwhelmed at the clutter on the screen and trying to keep up myself, and this is supposed to be like a party game, I don't know. I feel like something is like severely lost in translation.
Yeah, for sure. Because, just pulling the curtain back a little bit further, my wife joined in for a couple games, and she is just the furthest thing from a gamer.
Sure.
Check out our old bonus episode for a special guest peek at like her gaming knowledge.
The Pokemon battle one?
The Pokemon battle one, yeah. And she did okay. Like, she did fine. Like, all things considering, but...
Certainly.
She...
In some ways, I felt like she caught on quicker than I did.
Yeah. Which maybe maybe you had too many expectations. You know what I mean? Maybe just someone fresh, blank slate going in, can grasp, a hair faster. I don't know.
So, my solution to all this would have been, because again, I think this format of like every micro game involving some like character that you're controlling instead of just manipulating whatever's on screen directly.
Yeah.
If they chose to go with this format in the same way that they organically categorized everything in the previous games, every character's set of micro games is doing a specific action in different contexts.
Sure.
Each set of microgames in this game should have adapted around a singular character.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. So do you think it is a flaw that like each character can play each microgame? You think like Mona's should only be playable by Mona and they utilize her boomerang, whereas 5 volts can only be played by 5 volt and they utilize the fact that you're a detached specter from her body.
It makes me wonder about the design process, because it makes me wonder if it started, if like purely design document wise, like blueprint wise, it started as the way I just described it.
Sure.
And then they were like, well, what if you, like, it came as like a spark of innovation and inspiration, like, well, what if you could solve this microgame with this character? And then just kind of spread from there. Like
sure.
Well, why not make every microgame solvable with every character? Which is an inspired idea.
Yeah.
Like an admirable concept. Again, like I'll say it a million times, I admire this concept a lot. I think it's cool and interesting. And in a way, like, yeah, the challenge hardcore gamer of myself is like the part of my brain that plays Super Smash Bros. Playing random, a lot against anybody is like, playing this.
I thought of you a handful of times because of that.
Because a lot of the challenge of this game of WarioWare Get It Together, and a lot of like the in-game challenges, like the in-game missions, the in-game like missions that you have to pass to progress, involve playing these series of microgames with random characters per microgame. And I like that. I mean, like, personally, for my own challenge brain, I like that. That is appealing to me. But that's also, like, for the layman, and also, like, in my short time playing it, I was also very frustrated that, like, how could I have possibly made this happen?
Yeah.
How could I have possibly made this 9-volt work on this micro game?
Uh-huh.
And for the sake of freedom, for the sake of like experimentation and like, I don't know, yeah, free flow gameplay, it feels like the cohesive experience has suffered.
Yeah. Just to add on to every game is accessible by every character, interestingly enough, every single micro game is also 2-player.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Multiplayer. You can play every single one with a partner.
For certain.
Which is...
I meant to address that with the whole... This game's whole multiplayer gimmick. Or, draw.
It's... And just... It's worth confirming that. You know what I mean?
For certain.
Just that...
And that's admirable, too. And I think that's partially why, like, where the idea to put every character in every micro game came from. Because, like, it's no fun if you're both playing as the same character in the same micro game. It's like you're both doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought that far down the line, but yeah.
The sheer level of diversity in gameplay at hand with the 200 plus micro games and the couple dozen plus different ways to play each micro game inherently is, again, admirable.
Yes.
But from what I know a WarioWare game to be, how enjoyable just like sit down on second one was, I don't know, disappointing.
Yeah.
But again, I had fun, and I'm certainly want to play it some more.
Yeah. Well, we're not done here, but let's carry on in the conversation at least. And I would like to talk about the unexpected gameplay loop of sorts.
Certainly, yeah.
That I'm not sure... This is kind of where my comfort ends, because I think the gimmick for the micro games are fantastic, but they seem to have added like a layer to the post game. It seems very gameplay loopy and like addictive of sort, and I'm not sure I'm on board with it. But anyway, so every time you complete a set of micro games and you get your new high score or whatever, you get these Wario Coins, and they're just coins. They are just currency. And this all only takes place post-game, post-story mode. But you can spend these coins on, they call them presents, that you will then give to the characters. The WarioWare characters that you're controlling. And each character, just by definition, is very different and very quirky and very fun. And they're all like very interesting. And therefore, they are interested in different prezzies. And so, Ashley, the emo girl, will like all the dark candles and the bloody meat. And Wario wants the stacks of money and the gold bars. And Mike the robot wants your screws, bolts, and faucet handles. And so it's fun. It's cute. As you give them these prezzies, they have a level that goes up. And you unlock colors for them, which is super cool. You can customize their color. You unlock concept art, which is also very cool. I like that a lot. And so their level just seems to go up and up and up. These coins go pretty quickly. And so by the time that you have unlocked a lot of prezzies, it's time to go play some micro games, get some more coins, and then you can spend the coins on more prezzies. You'll level them up, get more galleries, get more character colors, and it's fun. But there is this loop mentality to it. I'm almost done. But it's all in...
I'm ready to follow up and engage with you on this. Like, keep going.
It's all seems to be in service of your online rank. Every week, Nintendo posts a new challenge of micro games that include certain character sets or only certain micro games at a certain speed, etc. And so, as you accomplish these challenges online, you have this online rank that goes up. How many prezzies you give your character and your character's subsequent level affect how quickly your online rank goes up.
Really?
And so all that at the end of the day seems to be in service of what your online rank is.
Is that true?
I can show you.
If that's the case, then I misunderstood what you were saying when we were playing.
So there was a 20-minute...
We just had an intermission.
Yeah, we just had a deep intermission so I could prove to Connor that really ranking up these characters is all in service of eventually ranking up your online title, your online level.
Okay.
Can you do it? Can you explain this? Is that, or are you just going to rant?
No, I can explain what I was still going to say beforehand.
Okay.
Separate from the online. The online thing, yes, I will certainly rant for or against in a second. But what I was going to say many minutes ago in real life, but just a minute or two ago in podcast time, was this kind of score attack, this kind of incentive to keep replaying the games, the micro games. Sorry.
He's really emotional at this game, like the fact that it's...
I'm really emotionable, yeah.
Emotional.
It's easy to emotion me, this game to emotion me. So the thing is, there's always been an emphasis on clearing these micro games in a score attack fashion. In every WarioWare game, up to this point, there's been... You can play these micro games in their categories as they're organized. And if you get a certain score in these categories, you get a reward, you know?
Yeah.
And the same goes for these individual micro games as well. In every WarioWare game thus far, you can play each individual micro game on repeat ad nauseum, getting faster and more difficult, kind of in a marathon fashion, and aspire for a certain score. Each individual micro game having its own set score that you can achieve to clear it, to master it, and you'll get like a little like emblem that says this micro game is cleared. That's in every WarioWare game, and every WarioWare game has a reward for mastering and clearing, getting that score for every micro game. That's always been something.
Yep.
And whether that's just like personal, like perfect, like personal mastery of the game, like completionist, like you want to clear every single micro game in the game. Like, if that's the kind of gamer you are, or you just want to unlock everything, there's always, like, some final reward. And I do think it's interesting for this game to have something like that, some kind of scoring and reward system, some kind of currency that you get for playing the micro games on repeat, doing challenging things.
Yep.
Playing the more challenging characters and the more challenging sets.
I agree.
And it rewards you for more currency that you can spend on, like meaningless things like aesthetics. Like you can spend your currency on like new color palettes for your characters or like concept art. The concept art is cool also, by the way. Very cool.
Big fan of that.
And the fact that it's per character too means you can invest in you can spend that currency on the characters that you like to see or like to play or the ones you just think are the coolest.
Yeah.
That is a system that I like and I appreciate. That's a way to like further incentivize replaying the micro games, not just to completionist, but to like get currency and like you get a little in-game reward. You can color your character. You can get the concept art. That's all well and good. Still not addressing the online thing. I don't like that you, instead of simply purchasing these things for the characters you like, there's like a loot box element to it.
Yeah.
I don't like that. The way that this currency works is you don't just like purchase these new colors,
right?
Color palettes and concept art for the characters in like themselves. You kind of detailed it already, but like in further detail, you can either purchase items from a shop that shuffles every half hour or so, similar to the Spirit board in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Right.
Or you can put your currency into like a gumball machine, like a gachapon machine, to get random items out.
Yes.
And these items have varying degrees of rarity and like efficiency. And like you said, the items correspond sort of to different characters.
Right.
So, and you can use every item for every character, but some are more effective on others. And by that I mean like you use these items to raise that character's level to get their like points up. And some items raise their points more than others per character. And you raise that character's points, that character's level, to then finally unlock the color palettes in the concept art.
Exactly.
I don't like that.
Yes.
That roundabout way, that is more inorganic, artificial lengthening padding of the game that I don't like.
There's two separate things here. Like, the prezzies could be fun.
Right.
A collection of random WarioWare items that
items
you
and like
see...
equipment for your characters, kind of almost.
Or just random, like a trophy system like Smash Bros. Of items that you see throughout the micro games or something could have been fun. You know what I mean?
Collect them all.
Yeah. Whereas separately, you could also spend those coins on leveling, unlocking the things for your characters.
Mm.
But yes, it's all tied in, and like it's none of the points go quickly.
Right.
Like it's expensive to get the prezzies for your characters. The prezzies don't level your characters up quickly at all. Then it's really, like, the online challenges, like, are really difficult as well.
Sure, and yes, you are right. Getting to the online, yes, the characters level, like, the amount of points that you invest in them does weirdly affect how well you can rank in the online system.
Yeah.
You're right. And that's strange.
And just to pat it on, the leveling up on the online system is painfully slow. Either I am grotesquely bad at this game, or this leveling system seems to be like flawed and like, or intended for heavy grinding use.
Right.
It's a weird fence to sit on. I don't know.
I'm glad we have a WarioWare for Switch.
Me too.
And I can see myself diving into this and getting really into it and like heavily investing in mastering all that there is to it.
Right. And again, I think we do disagree here slightly. I am a fan of just like the general gist of the game, like the layout, the framework, the cast of characters with different abilities. I actually think it's pretty cool. It's just like the kind of, I guess I'm going to just call it a gameplay loop that they try and catch you in or something that...
Sure.
And maybe it's just what the post-game content is. Like, I'm just not a fan of it. I am already, as you said, trying to get all the emblems on all the micro games. And so, like, that's fun. That's what I did on Touched and the original one and Smooth Moves. You know what I mean? Like, I like doing that, mastering each micro game at a blistering speed and difficulty. But
that's natural too.
Uh-huh.
All this getting gold and and using that gold to get random items for your character to level up the character subsequently, and then that finally gets the reward you're looking for. Like, that's just artificial lengthening and padding.
Yeah.
Wanting to complete and master the micro games because it's fun, and because, I mean, like, again, like, standard WarioWare procedure, if you do them all, you do finally get like a new reward,
right?
Which is always like a new mini game or a new toy to play with, like something like you actually interact with more than just color palettes and such, which is like fine.
I'm interested to see. It'll be a long time before I clear all the micro games, but I think it is just unlocking more coins. You implied it. There's a mission system, which is both satisfying and dissatisfying at the same time. Like, yes, accomplishing some of the more minor things, like completing this micro game with this character will just like net you 500 coins sometimes, and like that's nice and satisfying. But in like WarioWare Touched, like mastering each and every micro game would like you said, unlock like this more grand micro game.
Yeah, a mini game.
And nothing's really unlockable. There aren't any unlockable games or toys or features, I suppose. They're all just kind of like there from the start.
And dare I say, if there are these missions where it's like clear this certain micro game with this certain character, and you get points for that,
they know.
You know what that means, right? It means they know that this micro game is a bitch to complete with this character.
Inherently flawed and or more difficult with this character.
And so they make the grind a little easier for you if you can complete this challenge. Which I'm a sucker for that kind of challenge. I mean,
yeah, you're a Dark Souls nerd.
Right.
And you punish yourself on the reg.
Well, and frankly, that was No More Heroes 3 for me, too. I know this is a different episode entirely, but like part of that grind is like, I'm no stranger to forcing myself through a grind to either get through a game or to get the right reward to make the game progress more smoothly,
yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I can, if not enjoy that kind of experience, get enthralled by it and like get into it. I mean, it's still sort of my conquest to get every Super Smash Bros. Ultimate character to Elite Smash.
Yeah.
This
Admirable.
year. So far, so good. Still. But, you know, all that to say, yeah, I don't like that this new grindy element they've added to it. And I think they're aware of it still, too.
Yeah.
Which just also feels seedy to me.
Well, on a lighter note, before we kind of close off this WarioWare chapter, what did you think of the variety pack? The toy box, the multiplayer aspect of this new WarioWare game. We didn't play too many games, you know, as a multiplayer unit, but there are 9, you know, like dedicated multiplayer games, some of them up to 4 players that like feel pretty good and also utilize this same cast of characters and like really capitalize on the fact that they fit into the same micro games, you know.
Right. So first off, worth noting, micro games, yes. Mini games is still apt here because every WarioWare game has mini games.
All right.
You know, these are these bigger games that you're alluding to. Every WarioWare game, in addition to its collection of hundreds of micro games, has like a handful of mini games that are supplemental, kind of, that you unlock on the side. These are these rewards that I'm talking about from a little bit earlier that you can unlock. You get mini games, and these are typically, at least I'm speaking for the original WarioWare mega micro games here, is like these mini games are kind of arcade style games where essentially score attack games.
Yeah.
Almost lengthened versions of some of the micro games where it's the single objective, but you
go as long as you can.
Right. It's like survival, or it's extended and it gets progressively more difficult. Like just kind of arcade style score attack games.
And historically, some of them were fantastic.
Yeah, very, very
like in and of their own right. Yeah.
I remember the Smooth Moves for the Wii had like the Balloon Trip. Oh. It had the 3D version of Balloon Trip from Balloon Fight. Like some of them are very quality. Yeah. And so like you said, this variety pack is kind of Get It Together's version of these mini games, and yeah, it seems like they're mostly focused on finding ways to make like this format of like playable characters work in other gameplay formats. Like the ones you showed me were cool and interesting and made sense. Like there was one where you pick your character and then you fight off waves of the other characters.
Yeah.
Sort of, I don't know, Super Smash Bros. Style. And then, yeah, like the other one you showed me was also literally Super Smash Bros. Where you and a friend or 3 other friends pick the characters and essentially duke it out.
Right.
You know, like it's a platforming fighting game. And I mean, those are certainly innovative, intuitive. You know, they use this character system in an interesting way, in like kind of their logical conclusion way, I feel like. But 9V is still bad against Ashley, you know?
Right, yeah. You weren't wrong earlier when you mentioned that even like these party games, these variety pack games, like they're hard to drop into because like you do have to understand these different characters, and like sure you can use the same character for the same game and all the different variety packs, and that might be like for the most casual gamer might be the best way to handle it, you know what I mean? Just give them Ashley and tell them, you know what I mean, don't pick anybody but Ashley. But I don't know, I think some of them are okay casual party games, like keep the ball in the air, like we got it after a few minutes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the minigames, the variety pack, I suppose they make better introductions to like the gameplay mechanics as they exist, like for first timers.
Right, sure.
Just getting used to the characters, which I feel like is the most important part. It's just so you can learn to then enjoy the actual core game.
Right.
You know, I want to play it more. I don't know if I'll have any further input to provide for the podcast necessarily, but I certainly want to warm up to it. And I love WarioWare, and I've somewhat enjoyed what I've played. Yeah, I could see myself sinking time into it. I'd like to play it more, but as it stands now, it leaves me a little sour. Also, the voice acting is annoying, right?
Yeah, it is annoying. It's minimal. Like, it's very selective. Actually, like, once you get past the intro and stuff.
I mean like the in-game stuff.
Oh.
I mean, every character already kind of has a voice. I don't know. At this point, I'm just being like an angry old man. But every character had like their own like little voice clips that they've had since like the first WarioWare. and all of a sudden in this one they all have like English voice lines that they're saying a lot, and they all kind of sound the same. They all like they don't have distinct voices anymore.
Right. They're all just kind of like chibi, like cute.
Yeah.
Let's go!
Exactly, and they're all like it's all just kind of generic, and they're all also talking all the time. Are you serious?
Okay, yeah, you might be right.
Like anytime they use like their ability in the micro games, anytime they're like up for the next micro game, they're like, "It's my turn."
You're right.
Some variation of that. Like, yeah, 9-Volt used to sound cool. Orbulon used to sound cool. They all used to have like distinct cool voices. Yeah. I don't know what happened.
It is only $50. I don't know.
Nice.
It's $49.99. So that's nice. But yeah, I don't know. Just interesting that it's a discounted rate.
Yeah, that's good, I suppose. I mean, I don't know. Like, not that in my tirade I'm like, it should cost less. Yeah. This is a lesser game. But yeah, I mean, that's I mean, it's certainly uncommon and less heard of to hear, especially Nintendo first party published games to be at a discounted rate. So that's nice. I suppose in conclusion on my part, it's just disappointing because I know that I have a dozen other games on my Switch that are great for sit down with a party and get right into that aren't going to be WarioWare, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, should we move on into today's gem?
Yeah. This is the Nintendo Gem to end all Nintendo Gems.
That's right. Well, no, I am interested to talk about it for a little bit.
Certainly. Well, yeah, it started as a mobile game is like the thing that I'm getting around. I think it's on PC too. It's like a Steam game. It's just a general indie game. Downwell, in a WarioWare-esque simplicity and distillation of game design, is a game where you use 4 movement directions. In fact, just 2, essentially, and a single button. What do you know about this game? Because it was kind of a pretty big, like a reasonably big indie hit when it first launched, and like obviously a pretty successful mobile game. Not your mobile game kind of mobile game, you know, not your Clash of Clans kind of mobile game, but like an actual quality indie game.
Yeah, so I recognized the title, and I imagined something a little more substantive than it actually is. All I really can say is, like, I heard about Downwell, it's good, and I imagined some first-person shooter that was interesting and cool. That's far from the truth.
I mean, it's certainly interesting. I won't disagree with you there.
No, it's fascinating, yeah.
It is extremely simple and extremely elegant in its execution. It is aesthetically all very simplistic as well. It uses a tri-tone color scheme, much like a Game Boy, the original Game Boy. The default color scheme is just black, white, and red, and it uses that simple color scheme extremely effectively. It's all very pixel art too, so it's it's pixelated, retro kind of aesthetic. 2D
sprite pixel. I don't know, like 8-bit. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not. It's beyond simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a Game Boy. You know, like just black and white.
You said that.
Yeah, I said it. I already said that.
I'll give it to you.
And I mean, it is essentially a side-scrolling platformer. But instead of going right, you are going down. Mm-hmm. You are falling down a well as far down as you can. You are assisted by a trusty tool known as your gun boots, I guess they don't really have a name. But all you can do is move left and right and press the single button. And when you are on the ground, the button jumps. But when you're in the air, you use your gun boots to shoot downward and also hover for a little bit. And that's essentially the concept of the game. You try to fall down as far as you can. There are enemies and traps and spikes in the way. And
lots of them.
Yes.
I learned quickly.
You have 4 hearts and a certain amount of ammo to your gun boots, and your ammo refills every time you bounce off of an enemy or you land on a block or like land. That's where it uses like this simple visual aesthetic very effectively, because it's all very detailed. Like you can tell blocks and enemies and crates and spikes very distinctly. Mm-hmm. It's very elegant in that enemies that are white you can bounce off of and jump off of, and enemies that are red you have to shoot to destroy. You can shoot any enemy, but you can bounce off of the white ones, but you are damaged when you hit the red ones.
Well, and as you said, elegant game design, some enemies are white on the top and red on the bottom.
Right.
And so as I was falling, I was able to bounce off them and reload, but if I jumped and hit the bottom of them, I lost a heart.
If you bounce too high off of an enemy and into something, then you can get damaged. And some enemies follow you down the well.
Uh-huh.
So it's very fast paced.
It's blistering, yeah.
Because you're always just you're plummeting downwards perpetually. So, like, even the diversity in the enemy designs is really great. Like, there's a turtle that you can't shoot, but you can bounce off of. Uh-huh. There are bats that fly around. There are worms that are only on the ground, and they're just, like, the ones that they don't even damage you, but they're just, like, basically a platform to bounce off of. You progress deeper and deeper. There's a total of 4 areas with 3 levels each. So a total of 12 total levels to follow your way through, followed by a final boss level. And the game is essentially a roguelike. Anytime you die, you have to start at the very top of the well and fight your way all the way back down, with nothing carried over. But through your plummet, during your plummet, as you destroy enemies and blocks, you will collect gems. And every once in a while through your level, you'll run into a shop. And at shops, you can purchase health and extra ammunition bars for your gun boots. So that you can fire for longer in midair and kind of adjust your positioning, like while you hover.
Yeah.
And these shops are kind of set sporadically through every other level or so. They're sort of randomly laid out. All the levels are sort of randomly laid out, besides the structure of the 4 areas and the 3 levels in each. The layout of the enemies and the levels themselves are randomly generated. You can find periodically, along with the shops, caves on the side that house alternate weapons, so you can switch your weapon if you choose from the standard machine gun to like a shotgun blast, to a burst, to kind of like a bigger shotgun blast, something that's like almost like a screen clearer. Each of these weapon pickups are also either a health pickup or an ammo pickup. So they will either refill your health by 1 or give you an extra ammo bar.
That's cool.
It's very cool, and it makes you strategize, because if it's health that you need, but it's a sucky weapon, or a weapon that you don't like to use, or that will be tough to use in this upcoming level, you'll have to choose to pick it up or not. Just an extra layer of strategy.
Sure.
In between each level, it'll offer you to pick one of 3 upgrades. These upgrades are also randomly selected per playthrough and per transition from level, and these upgrades range from more options at the shop and a discount. Regain health by eating enemy corpses. Each enemy, when you defeat them, their corpse kind of bounces around, and you can, if you acquire that upgrade, you can consume so many of those corpses to gain some health back.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, that one's cool. You can get a drone that flies around. You can get a balloon that makes you fall even more slowly. You can get one that makes destroyed enemies and destroyed blocks fire bullets upwards, which is the most useful one.
Yeah.
So that just like causes the screen to be a flurry of bullets, and it gets chaotic very quickly. Yeah, every upgrade, there's no upgrade that's like that feels imbalanced, that feels overpowered or underpowered. Everything feels useful, and it's genuinely always a hard decision to like pick one over others sometimes. That's just about it. I mean, I don't know. I can explain how the gameplay is simple and elegant as all I want, but it's an exhilarating experience. It's very fast-paced.
I have to say, and that's kind of where I feel like it does shine. It's the simplicity combined with the speed, because I've played a handful of roguelikes in my life, and you know what I mean? Like, a lot of those power-ups are fairly standard, and like it's like this neat combination of like bullet hell, Galaga, but like the roguelike elements of like Binding of Isaac. That's where I've spent like most of my time, and like a lot of those power-ups sound very familiar. And so like I don't know, it's just fascinating, and playing it the handful of times I did on your Switch, the speed is like really just like the key takeaway that I have from it already. It's fast.
Right. and it gets faster. The lower you go, the faster it gets because you fall faster because you're closer to the bottom. The gravity gets more intense.
That's cool.
It's pretty sick. Yeah, it's a game. I mean, when you picked mine up, you were playing on the hard difficulty because I've already beaten it.
Uh-huh.
You unlock that after you beat it once, so it was a little more intense. But I think it's immediately addicting. It's immediately captivating because it's so easy to play and so graspable. Like it's so clear what's going on already,
right?
And what you can and can't do. I don't know. It's just such a simple, elegant game. Naturally, it's a roguelike, yes. But there are some rewards that you carry over from playthrough to playthrough, and that's only after each run, all of your gems that you collected are counted up, and you have like a score at the end of each run.
Uh-huh.
And all that you really unlock between runs is different color palettes, which is cute.
Okay.
So there's like a literal like Game Boy one.
Yeah.
That's like the tritone.
Green.
Yeah, like the green, like yeah.
Well, and I was gonna ask, like, actually, if throughout the game, like, the colors shifted. You know, as you got deeper, if it went to a different color or something, but it's actually just a setting or something.
Right, yeah. In that regard, yeah. The color palette itself is, like an option setting that you unlock more the more you play.
Right.
But certainly, the deeper you get, the aesthetic changes a little bit. Like, it certainly gets darker and weirder and creepier. It's not just a cave anymore. It's kind of like a little more hellish.
Interesting,
The further you get. And the final boss is cool. But yeah, you also unlock different styles, too. It's not really like you're gaining something and carrying it over. It's more so like, the more you play and the more score you get. Like, your standard style, you start, I think, with 3 hearts and so many bullets. And the one that I was playing on that you played is called Floaty, and you get, I think, 1 less heart, maybe, and you like float a little slower.
Interesting.
It's just like different play styles.
Yeah.
There's one that's bolder, that's like extra hearts, but you fall faster.
Gotcha.
You know, and are heavier.
Yeah.
It's just like it's less rewards that you're carrying over, more just different play styles that you unlock the more you play it, which is just makes it more fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Very simple, small, effective indie game. It's always fun to pick up and play whenever I'm bored of anything else, and I always end up sucked way too hard into it for way too long. It carried me through the earlier part of this pandemic quite a bit. I'll say that.
That's cool. I didn't realize you've been playing it that long either. Not quite a micro game, not even a mini game, but an indie game.
Yeah. I mean, if
indie is a size,
right? I mean, if this were a mini game and WarioWare get it together, it would certainly make WarioWare worth more than the price of admission.
Dang. How much is it run on the eShop?
It's $2.99.
Dang. Do you think that's how much you paid for it?
Yeah, probably. I might have got it on sale. Hell, yeah. I mean, again, it was a mobile game. It's a little iPhone game. And I mean, that price makes sense because it's a pretty small game.
Sure.
All in all, but like, God, if it isn't compelling and addicting and captivating and
worth the money.
Yes, just impeccably designed. Yeah, and it's just something I've been snacking on quite a bit recently. And I was just reminded, and I think it deserves its space in the Nintendo Gems Hall of Fame.
That's right. That's cool.
Right there next to WarioWare, get it together. Best of the franchise.
We welcome them both with open arms.
Yes.
All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Nintendo Gems podcast. It has been a delight. Hope you've enjoyed your time with us. If you are not subscribed to us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on right now, it would mean a whole lot if you would. And hey, I don't ask for this very often, but leave us a review, 5 stars even. It would really help us, get out to new people, and that's the aim here. Follow us on Instagram if you aren't. Like us on Facebook. We're on a handful of social medias. Give Connor's Bandcamp a like. He is weave.bandcamp.com. That's WEAV. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for listening to the Nintendo Gems podcast. My name is Braden.
And I'm Connor.
And we will see you next time. Have a good one.
Love you.